Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this one we're going to be doing episode 7 of the FPS tutorial series. In this one we're going to quickly just fix some things from last time when it comes to naming of functions and variables and stuff. I'll get into that, it'll take about 5 minutes, maybe less. And then we'll move on to adding ammunition and then making it so that we require ammunition to shoot, and when we shoot it consumes ammunition. And then we'll end off by having the ammunition displayed on the actual UI. And then when we move on later, we can then add, different kinds of ammunition that we check for depending on the weapon we're using. But for now, we'll just add a single ammunition that we need. And then now that we need ammunition to shoot and we've got some guns that we just give ourselves, in the next video after this, we can then add picking up weapons to shoot and so on. So, just slowly making progress each video, adding something new. So this time it's ammunition. I want to start off by thanking my donators on Patreon. Thanks to Paul Robinson, Fullborn, and Wesley for their $5 donations this month on Patreon. If anyone else is able to help support the channel, then the link is in the description below. But apart from that, into it. So, last time we had this gun, which we could hold down and shoot repeatedly with a fire rate. Obviously, I can increase the fire rate, reduce the damage, whatever you want. And then this gun is just kind of click. If you hold down, it just doesn't do anything until you click again. It's like a... This is a semi-automatic, and then we have the automatic, which I showed first. Now, I've done a slight bit of stuff off camera, but it's very, very small. I'll show you quickly. It's like 2 lines of code. So, just like in my most recent videos, you should probably watch, if you're watching this series anyway, about the preload scene. If you've watched it, then obviously you'll know what this is, but I've just made a preload scene. So in the build settings, we've got the preload scene, which is just this. It's got a manager in it, and that currently just has the don't destroy and load script, which will set this thing to not destroy and load, and it'll just go to scene 1, and that's all that handles. And then scene 1 is this scene. There we go. So that's basically it. So let's put in the scripts folder. What do we want? Well, first of all, what I want to do is I want to go... Oops, did I just... Oh no, I'm in the right thing. Okay. So the first bit we want to do, open the code, we want to go to our gun thing and rename some stuff. So semi-automatic, and automatic. Last time I had automatic and manual, but obviously that's technically not right, because manual is where it's like a revolver where you shoot and then have to reload or cock the gun or whatever and then shoot again. So we'll add that, but there's no point having it now when we can't actually reload, so obviously I'll add that afterwards. But for now we've got automatic and semi-automatic. So if we go to the guns, have I lost the guns folder? Where have I gone? Scripts. Weapon, there you go. I'm silly. Okay, so gun. I had these already, I've just put them into one line. This is just so we can override them to say what to do when we do mouse down and mouse hold. But the thing is, we're going to end up wanting right clicks for scoping. So we should add a public virtual void on right mouse down. It doesn't really need to take any parameters because it's just going to, we don't need to know where to go. We're just going to handle the zooming. Maybe we will need parameters eventually, but for now, just on my right mouse down. Then, to make this obvious, on left mouse down, on left mouse hold. There you go. That's all I'm going to do in here for now. Okay, and then when we go to our automatic, we want to say on, let's just put that back and just add in the word left. So on left mouse hold and on left mouse down. Just make sure if you do rename your script, your class name here, you have to rename it in Unity, and the other way around as well. If you rename a script in Unity, you have to name the class correctly in here. So, one thing is, if you notice, this script from here to here, the raycast, what I hit and down to the bottom there, is actually identical in there and in here. Like I can go over here and basically paste it in, it's the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out, and we're going to go to our gun script and make a function, because it's the same for all guns, which basically just handles the raycast and dealing damage, because that's the same regardless of the gun. So it's nice to have the script in the function in the base class, so that we don't have to write it every time we need to do that. We can have it in one place, it's neater, it's better practice, and so on. So we're going to write, instead of a private function or a public function, public would work, but you should always be as private as possible. By that I mean public, you have to be public if you're getting called from elsewhere, which these functions are getting called from the weapon handler. Then a scriptable object, so if you want to actually save the scriptable object as a JSON file, like later on when we do saving, that has to be public. But that's fine anyway, because it's just storing data for a scriptable object. In classes, you should keep stuff private if possible. And then we have a function here. We don't want it to be public because it doesn't have to be. We can't have it private because otherwise we won't be able to call it in here. But because this automatic and semi-automatic, they are derived from gun, we can use what's called protected if you haven't seen it already. So protected is just a accessor. So we've got public, private, protected. And that's basically saying it's private to the other scripts which, well, no, private, but it's public to the other scripts that derive from this. So anything deriving from gun can actually call this, even though it's not public. So we're going to call it protected void fire. And I'll take in a transform camera pause, I think is what we called it. So let's put that in there. So here we go, here's our code, fire, do that. Takes in camera pause so we can access that. So now all we need to do is go to semi-automatic and just put in fire. Obviously we should indent that correctly. And then we go to automatic and we say do that and then fire. Okay, so this code, we've reduced quite a bit. This one we've reduced quite a bit. Just remember to send in the camera position so they actually know where to shoot. Like so. And then if we give it a second and see what's wrong, because I've clearly done something wrong. Oh, haven't changed the names here. So on left mouse down, on left mouse hold, and then we can say if input dot get mouse button down 1, which is right click, then current gun dot on right mouse button down. So we call that, and then now all our stuff will be renamed. So just give it a second and it should all work. We're going to go back to our preload scene, like so, which is also where our UI is going to be created. And now we can hold down and shoot like this. And it just to show, if I went to the guns and I went to this one and made it a fire rate of 10, but then I'll reduce the damage to be like between 5 and 10, for example. I can hold down and it shoots more often but does less damage. It's up to you, obviously, whatever you want. Anyway, stats don't matter. That's all up to you. So what we're going to do now is we want to shoot, but make it so we can only shoot when we have ammo. So obviously in games, different ammo you get in different quantities depending on what kind of gun it is to make it balanced. So obviously if it's like a sniper, you're going to get less ammo for it, but obviously each ammo is going to have a bigger hit. Whereas for other guns that are more rapid fire, you're going to get less of it, more of it, but it's going to be like less damage. So that doesn't really matter. I don't need to focus on balancing a game here. This is just for showing how to implement mechanics. So to do the ammo, we're going to create a script for it on the manager. And that's so that it's always available from everywhere and we can display it on the UI easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to add to here a script. Well, on the manager, we can actually add a canvas, UI canvas. Now, the actual, make sure to put the event system in manager so that it persists as well through to the other scene. The canvas, don't really need to change too much on here. I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to put scale of screen size, halfway, and then enter. I'm using 1920 by 1080. And that's just so that it knows that whenever I place UI stuff, I'm treating it as if it's 1920 by 1080, which I am. And then when we scale, it tries to help match it better. But there are still UI scaling things you need to do yourself. But the benefit to this is if we now go on this canvas and then add a UI text, for example, go to wherever that is, zoom out. Obviously, it's pretty small. I don't think Text Mesh Pro is in here. Oh, it is. Oh, I need to install. Okay, I'll set that up next time maybe. For now, we'll just have text and we'll make it bigger. And we'll say ammo colon, I don't know, 50 for example. Okay. Let's put that at the bottom left. Now, I don't know how big we want that necessarily. We could just leave it like that for now. Maybe I'll have an icon instead. Obviously, yep, as always, it's up to you. So let's just offset that a bit and then say we're going to bind that to the bottom left. And that's so if we go to free aspect and undock it, for example, we can move this around. And as you see, it always stays at the bottom left. So it's always there. And obviously, yeah, it's a problem if we had a monitor like this, but no one has a monitor like that in existence as far as I'm aware. So it doesn't matter. Let's still put it back to 1920. Okay. So we've got our ammo at the bottom left. Technically, you should have like yeah, you could put that like there, for example. That means that's the constraint of where it can go when you scale it, but I'm not going to go into UI scaling now. I'm still not an expert of UI scaling. Now this text will just be our ammo text, so ammo text, and on the manager we're going to write a script to handle this, so we can just call it ammunition manager, because one thing about writing scripts is each script should have a single responsibility. It's one of the good best practice things, the single responsibility thing. I don't know what its actual name is, but anyway, this wants we need the script to be called from anywhere to check for ammunition, so we'll have it say public static ammunition manager instance. Now, I mean, if you've watched my videos before, you'll have seen this plenty of times. If you've watched other people developing Unity, you'll see this. All we want to say is on the awake, so private void awake, we'll say if instance is equal to null, then we'll set instance equal to this. So if there is no instance of the class yet, we will set it to this one. Else if instance does not equal this, which means that it already exists, then we'll say destroy this. Okay, so that basically stops us having duplicates, because that can cause problems. Now we can write code in here which can be called from anywhere. So what do we want to have on ammunition manager? Well, at the top we want to have a private ammunition, if I can spell, whoops, ammunition count. For now we'll call it ammunition count. Now we also need to say it's an integer, of course. Okay, so that's our ammo, and we want to call functions on here when we shoot to handle certain things. So for example, we want to call when we fire ammo, we want to check if we've got ammo, and then consume it. Now, one way to do this, we could have two functions, check for ammo and then consume ammo, and we call them both. We could just have a function which returns true or false. And what we can do is we can shoot if it returns true, and then don't shoot if it returns false. So we'll have a public, because it needs to be called from elsewhere, boolean, so it's a function that returns true or false, and we'll call it like consume ammo. Okay, and all it's going to do for now, maybe we need to pass in the ammunition type later, but for now we're just going to have consume ammo. It's going to basically say if ammunition count is greater than 0, so if we've got more than nothing, then we want to say ammunition count minus minus, so we reduce 1 from it. Then we want to say return true, which means that we have some ammunition and we've just reduced it by 1 so we can actually fire. And then we can say else, so if it's not greater than 0, then it's either is 0 or it's less than 0. We can say return false. So basically, if they've got no ammo, then whoever called this is going to get back false. That's quite simple. And we could simply just write, if we could say return ammunition count is greater than 0, which would return true or false. But the thing is, we actually then want to take off the thing if so. I mean, there's a nicer way. And all we want to do in the gun is whenever we call fire, we should actually call it from the weapon handler. So the thing is though, this is shooting and this is separate. So what we could do is we could just for now take this out because it's not really shooting, and just have this here. Now we're actually going to also get rid of this checking for 1 and 2. That's just a temporary way of changing weapons. But this is just for shooting, right? Left mouse button down and hold is for shooting. So we can, before we even do that, we can basically say if. See, we don't really want to check every frame on this manager if we've got any ammo. We only really want to check when we've fired. So we can write at the top, let's store a private ammunition manager. What that means is rather than calling the singleton every single frame, and it's probably quite taxing, we can actually just store it in here at the start. So just like we get the camera at the start, we can say ammunition manager is equal to ammunition manager.instance, because that's what we called it. There you go, instance. So now from here we can actually reference the ammunition manager whenever we need to. So we can say when we've checked the last one, we can say if ammunition manager dot consume ammo. So basically, if the function we call returns true, then shoot. Otherwise, don't. Okay. Now that's only if we click. Now, to be honest, we're gonna have the same thing here. So if we press the other thing, then do that. Now, obviously, you would say, well, you've got the same thing twice here, so why don't you just put it at the start? But as you see, the function is a boolean, so we need to check once we've pressed the left mouse button, and it also reduces the ammo count. We don't want to just do that every frame because that'd be silly. You only want to call this function whenever we click or hold down the button. So that's the way I'm going to do it for now. Obviously, if people find a better solution or I think of a better solution, I'll change to it. But for now, that makes sense. So if we press the left mouse button and when we've got it held down, then we're going to do that. Now, one other thing is we're actually going to say else if, because what will happen is when we put our mouse, when we click basically, as far as I'm aware, both of these would get called if we just put an if, so we need an else if. And there we go. So that should work now. We're going to have an ammunition count, so we should probably just set it at the start. Or I could make it a serialize field. Whoops. I think he wants a Z. I've just pressed debug. I'll give it a second. Yep, there we go. So what that means is we can set it in the inspector. It'd be quite nice. So now whenever we shoot, it's only going to shoot if we have that. So let's just test if that works, and then we can actually update the UI. Because for now the UI is just static. It's going to stay like that. So let's say we have 50 ammunition. Okay, let's press play and hope for the best. Okay, so we're going to shoot. Now, as you see on the side, oops, I hit my hand. The ammunition count went down drastically and it didn't do any damage, but it did go down, and it went down very quickly because we shoot 10 times a second with that weapon. So, I mean, that's why I said certain guns will have different fire rates and different ammunition kind of amounts. Let's just quickly go to that pistol and just change it. We don't want to fire of 10, let's go for like half that, 5, and the maximum damage 20 or something. But the thing is, as you saw, it wasn't actually dealing damage, so let's go back and check. So we're returning true. I'm going to return true because as we saw, the number was going down. So weapon handler. If we press the left mouse and if we consume ammo, then call that. Now, say we'll go with this one for now. I mean, I guess I could just put it on both. Now if we press play and we let's press shoot over continue. Alright, that one worked. Let's go to the other gun. Is it the range? On left mouse button. Okay, so if we go into, if we press step into, we're mouse button down. Okay. So we appear to be having a problem. Are we still running? Okay, we're still running. When we go to our automatic, we say fire camera position, just like we do in the semi-automatic. Is this getting called though? Because surely our pistol is, and we have, it is working, it's just apparently taking, okay, no, the problem is, which you is that what's happening is it's reducing the ammo every frame, because obviously that's all it's really being told to do, but with this on left mouse button hold, we only actually shoot whenever we can, if you know what I mean. On the automatic, we only shoot every time we can go into this if. So we only want to really consume ammo at this point when the fire gets called. So in reality we should only fire. So it's one of those things where, would you check if you can consume, then call fire, or the other way around? Now, just because of how we've actually got it, I think it could be the other way around is how we're going to have to go about doing it. Just because it's really awkward doing it this way. If we have it checking in here, in the weapon handler, we're assuming that it has to shoot. Now, what we actually can do, if we wanted to, is we could make this a boolean and then consume ammo. It's not an easy solution. I mean, I'm sure there is an easy solution. I'm just thinking about how I want to go about doing this. So it'd be nice if we could manage it in the gun script, if we could reduce the ammo here, because this is the only time we know that we've actually fired the gun. We only know it's shot a bullet or whatever, or dealt damage, when this gets called, really. So it'd be nice. I mean, we can actually here we could handle this here. So if we actually go to the weapon handler and just get rid of ammunition manager, we don't want to check for this consume ammo, we just want to call it like we used to. And what we're going to do is, inside the gun script, we're going to say if ammunition manager.instance.consume ammo, then do this. Now, calling that like all the time isn't great, and obviously we could store it in here, but the problem is, because it's a scriptable object, I mean, we could just pass it in, but that's just like the same thing. We'll make stuff efficient later on if we need to, but that's still fine. We can just check, can we consume ammo every time we fire? Now, the benefit to this is that ammo is only going to go down when we actually do fire, and that should work just fine, now that we only call it then. So, and now I've done another oopsie. So check for shooting. If we've pressed the left mouse button, if we press the right mouse button, on left mouse down on the gun. If ammunition manager.consume ammo, it's possibly because attached to Unity. Press play. If we've got more than 0 ammo, reduce it, return true. Do the stuff, do the stuff, do the stuff, do the stuff. Continue. We did damage. Okay, good, it all works. Stop the debugger. Bang. It just appears to be this one gun that isn't working, but the other one works fine. There must be something I've done silly with this one, to be honest. Have I removed something? Have I done something silly? On the left mouse button, hold. Then call that. If we actually go to the the automatic, and put a breakpoint there, we can see when that gets called. Which theoretically should be whenever we... Now, as you see, it's not getting called, so we can... I shouldn't have pressed stop playing, it's still going to work. If we put a breakpoint there, that's getting called, and it's not working. Have I altered the fire rate? Fire rate is 5. It's never apparently letting us shoot, because every time it seems to be returning false. If the time is minus that over the fire rate. Do that. I don't actually know what... I have not touched that, I swear. That's interesting. I'll leave that for now. I'll see if I can fix it off camera. But all we want to do now is we want to go to the ammunition manager, have... well, we'll use UI. So using unityengine.ui, we'll store a text field. So we'll call it ammunition count text. And what we want to say is, whenever we consume ammo, we'll say private update ammo count UI. We'll say ammo count text is equal to whatever I've got it, ammo colon space plus ammunition count, like so. Private void, and whenever we reduce it, we want to call this update. We don't want to do it any other time. So if we stop the game when it lets us and we press play, we need to actually drag in the ammunition text because I'm silly and forgot and rushed. So manager ammunition text, drag it in, press play. Now we should be done. So if I go shoot, our ammunition goes down. We just appear to have a problem with the pistol, but I will fix that for next video, or if someone finds it out. Well, what have I done wrong here? I could just sit here for the next 5 minutes and try and figure it out. But for some reason, left mouse hold camera, it's just this is returning false every time. So it's always less than 1 over fire rate, so less time fired. What I could quickly do, obviously, I'll just say the outro now and then I'll stay for like 1 more minute just to try and figure this out on camera in case I do. So yeah, if you've liked this video, then obviously leave a like and subscribe. We'll continue with this in the next video of the new stuff we're going to keep adding. If you haven't already, joined our Discord server. But apart from that, thanks for watching and goodbye. Unless you're staying around for another second. So we're going to shoot with this, and we can view that last time fired is 52. And time.time is 12, so... last time fired hasn't reset. Well, that'll be a problem, won't it? Okay. So, if I wait a bit and then shoot... That's still 52. If we actually... I feel like what's going on is this variable just has stayed the same. The weird thing is it should actually reset. Let's just do private void on enable and just say last time fired is equal to 0. Put 0f. Okay. Let's take that breakpoint out. Yeah, I just have a feeling like the variable, even though it's a private variable, so it shouldn't have saved because it's on a scriptable object, it for some reason has stayed. Oh well. That was easy. Haven't already liked, subscribed, it would mean a lot. But apart from that, thanks for watching and goodbye.